I do really believe 100% from every part of me that everyone has the capacity to be able to do the things that they want and not to be held back by the mental baggage that's in our head that we want to push through.
Welcome to the Do the Thing podcast. In each episode, we get down and personal with people who go after the things they want to make all their wildest dreams come true. Join us as we unveil and dissect a formula for what it takes to do the thing. Here is your host, Stacy Lauren.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Do the Thing podcast. This is your host, Stacy Lauren. All right, guys, so today's going to be fun. I got introduced to our next guest through my sister, who actually has been following him for a while, both through a stuttering program that he's created, and then also by him helping other people create their own coaching programs. And it's been amazing to see his journey through even watching my sister grow and develop. And I love getting to talk to people who make the most out of the situations they're dealt and don't make it a story about themselves and are actually able to really turn it into something amazing and beautiful, and not only for themselves, but for other people to then learn from and to grow from. So I am so excited to talk to our next guest about his story and how he was able to kind of work through the stuff that he did to be able to do the thing. So I am welcoming Daniel to the show. Hi, Daniel.
Hello. How's it going?
I am great. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. I'm very excited for this podcast, and I'm a big fan of good energies. And I know from your sister and from yourself, you guys are both very, I guess, positive, very positive, and just enthusiastic, and looking at the world from a great light. And I think that is what the world needs more of. So I'm honored to be on this podcast with you.
Oh, I love that you said that. That's so cool. And it's funny. Yeah, she's amazing. I feel like I have good energy, but she has 100 times my energy. So it's cool that you have experience working with her directly too.
Cool.
So I'd love to start off and have you just tell everybody about you and your story.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Daniel Francis. And so I'm Canadian. My mom and dad, so my mom's Italian, but my dad's from Malta. If you know too much about Canada, we're just a bunch of people that came from different countries, and we just kind of built a country from that. And so I'll be 30 in March. And for majority of my life, as the oldest son and the oldest, I guess, individual with my cousins in my family, as I have a big Italian family, I would say there was a lot of pressure on me to just be a good influence to everyone else. The problem was that genetically in my family, I grew up with a stutter. And it may sound like a small deal to some, it may sound like a big deal to others, but if you've had one, and they say about 1% of individuals have a stuttering issue, it really affected me in a negative way. And, I went to speech therapy when I was 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. I tried all different speech therapists. My mom and dad tried their best. And it really held me back, I guess, tapping into my potential growing up. And so at 30 now, I've realized that it was the biggest blessing in my life, because I have this drive, this look on life, this ability to go after these crazy things that none of my, I'm really the only entrepreneur in my family. And I look back at it at some level, God it's almost like you have to go through something painful, you overcome it, and then you become an inspiration. And so a lot of my life has been around this idea of overcoming my stutter. And I use music as therapy. So for me, speech therapy didn't really work for me. And I can really get into the details of that. But I would say the biggest, there's amazing speech therapists and a lot of I have a lot of friends who are speech therapists. I would say the biggest problem is some of them don't even have a stuttering issue, and they're reading from a textbook. And then the second part is, to me personally, I think a lot of it is one-on-one. And for me, my philosophy is to overcome a stutter, you must confront the scariest thing in the world in relation to communication, which is public speaking. And so before I kind of get into that, for me growing up, what I did initially is I used music as therapy. So I learned how to play guitar, I taught myself, was in a band, and then I learned how to sing. And then I realized when I sing, I don't stutter. And so that was, and then I realized I couldn't sing in every conversation. So that only lasted for so long. And then I moved, I went from I would say my music phase to my science phase. And so I think when I was 18, I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to become a doctor because people are going to love me because I am successful as a doctor. And that was my thought process. And I'm going to become so smart because anyone who has a stutter realizes that, or if you do, or even struggle with speech, like when you don't know how to communicate with your words, people don't look at you what you're talking about. It's like they don't take you seriously. And so that was majority of my life growing up. I was like, oh, you're the guy who doesn't talk. You're the guy who almost like laughs at other people's jokes. You're the guy who sits in the, not sits in the corner, but I was scared of having the limelight on me, right? Like, for example, being in a group of 4 or 5 people with a bunch of friends. I wouldn't be the guy talking because if I stuttered on the word water and embarrassed myself, no one would actually laugh at me, but you could tell I just got uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And so that was it. So then I went to my science phase. I was like, I'm going to become a doctor. And then I took what's called the Asian 6-pack in high school. It's funny. It's probably not the best term to use, but it was chemistry, bio, physics, advanced functions, calculus, and data management. And so from a kid who wasn't really smart, I was like, I'm going to learn that stuff. And so I took an extra year of high school. It's called grade 13. And I just learned biology and chemistry and more advanced physics and maths. And then I got accepted into university for neuroscience. And so I was like going down this path, and I realized a year in, I'm really not speaking at all, and I'm just always behind a textbook. And so then I hit this like massive depression, I think it was 2013, and it was January, February, really cold in Canada. And I was living on res, and I was just, is life even worth living? And I remember calling my mom at like 3:00 in the morning, being like, why am I even alive right now? And I think that's the scariest thing to hear from a child. And especially, I wasn't living from home. And yeah, like I really thought about like, if I'm going to have this for the rest of my life, like this sucks. My life sucks. I don't have the confidence. I feel like I can't build solid relationships because I can't communicate to them. And I'm going down this path and I feel like a fraud because like this isn't even me. I'm just doing it to prove something, to prove to others, for them to accept me. And then it was a difficult time. But again, like looking back at it, I was 19, so about 10, 11 years ago. It was me getting through that was a blessing. At the time, it's hard to see it, but I feel like that's what makes great people, is like going through something really hard and then overcoming it. And I know I've said that a couple times. But yes, and then I stumbled onto a public speaking event on campus. I was invited to, and I think God works in funny ways. And yeah, I saw this speaker at the front of the room, and he gave this presentation for about 30 minutes. And I was, that guy's an amazing speaker. How do I speak like him? And then he even said he had a speech issue growing up. I'm like, what? That's crazy. I always thought like, you're born a great speaker. You can't develop that muscle. And so I went up to that individual, and I don't know what I got to do, but I need you to teach me, And funny enough, that ended up being a network marketing company. I didn't even know what a network marketing company was at the time. I was 19. And I was like, oh my God, this sounds great. Did I see a Mercedes-Benz, right? And I signed up, and I was like, Dad, I think I signed up for something. He's like, that sounds like a pyramid scheme. I was like, I don't know, but he's going to help me with my communication. And I got to do this. And at the time, it was like, my parents were just like, whatever's going to make you happy, we're there for you, right? And so, yeah, and then what was really cool was I feel like I tapped into something, and I actually grew a team, believe it or not. And I grew a downline of like 300-400 people over the next 6 months. And I moved up the ranking. So I went from bronze to silver to gold to diamond to platinum. Not that really matters, but I had like 1% of people in the company. And it was like this aha moment of, look what I'm capable of. This is crazy. And so one of the biggest things was, I remember that at the time, his name was Paul, who was the leader that spoke at that event. He goes, look, Daniel, you're starting to get success. People are starting to sign up under you, and you're building you're a natural leader. I need you to give your first ever speech to a group. What I do. I'm like, no way, man. I'll invite them out. I'll be excited, but I'm not going to be the guy giving a 45-minute presentation. He's like, you don't have an option. He goes, we're going to invite people on Saturday, because I think I called them to come out to my house that's right at the events. And he goes, we're going to book a time, and I'm not going to show up. We're going to say I'm coming, and then you're going to do it. And I was freaking out on the inside. And I practiced this presentation, oh my God, 200 times. The people came in. It was like 12 o'clock on a Saturday. And they're like, where's Paul? I'm like, Paul's not doing it. I'm doing it. And they're like, oh God. But then everyone came downstairs. I gave a presentation. I had TV behind me. And I swear, like I blanked out for like the next 40 minutes. I did it. And then everyone stood up and gave me a round of applause. And I'm like, this is cool. And then I realized like that was like oh my goodness, I can actually speak in front of people. And that was like the big change in my life. And then fast forward, I went into door to door. I went into leadership. I was an executive director at a telecommunication company. You know, I grew myself, and that's looking back at like my stutter is what has allowed me to be the person I am today. So don't mean to ramble for the last 10, 15 minutes, but figure I'd give you an overview of who I am.
Yeah, no, I love it. I'm so glad. Yeah. And thank you so much for sharing and being so vulnerable. I wanted to actually start off, if you don't mind, just with the call you made to your mom when you asked her why you're even alive. Like, what did she, because I do have a lot of parents that are listening. So just from that perspective, I have to ask you that question first. What did she say to you? Do you remember? How did you get through that moment?
Yeah. So being 30 right now, and I have a lot of cousins, and it's funny because they're at that age right now between like 18 to 22. It is a difficult time. It is a difficult time because it's almost like the world is saying, you got to have your stuff together. You don't know what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And there's this massive pressure, whether it's going to college or university, so do you know what you're going to do for the rest of your life? And it's like, you're kind of transitioning into like becoming an adult, but you just were a child, a couple of years ago. And so I think I was struggling with everything. I was struggling with my identity. I was struggling with what I want to do in life. I was struggling with confidence. And so my mom, I had my uncles call me. I had friends call me. You know, it was bad too, because like she was potentially going to call the cops because she was so worried. It was an emotional time. What she did is she helped me like just kind of like let's talk things out, right? Let's talk things out. And it was almost, she tried her best. And I remember even talking to my dad too, it's almost this. I don't have kids, but what I understand is each kid has a different spirit or soul. So even though they come from the same parents, they're different individuals deep down. I don't know if you have kids, Stacey, but do you kind of agree with that? Like each
totally. Yeah.
Okay. Like even though they have your genetics, they're a different soul. Right? And so I think the problem is when you try to force a soul or a spirit or a child down a path and they're not in alignment, you putting more pressure on that kid is very stressful. And especially if like, but we spent all this money going to school. What do you mean I don't want you to end up like me or end up this other person. And I don't know. I just feel like everyone's journey is different. And I feel like you have to let someone go through their journey on their own. Like the only thing my parents could have done is given me the confidence at some level, lead by example, be a good person, be an ambitious person. And to me, like at 30, things figure themselves out. If someone is lazy, that's a different story, right? Or if, for example, I was babied. As an Italian, I was babied. I moved out of my house and I went across the country when I was 22 years old because I was finding myself. My mom was like crying at the airport. What are you doing? No, but I was finding myself. And then I came back when I was 25, 26. And obviously I would come back for Christmas, but I came back and I'm a different man. And so I just think the answer is you can never force someone to be something that they're not. And everyone has a journey. And all you can do is love them and let them figure it out. But the more pressure that's added, like you have to do this because I'm your parent and I know better than you. My personal opinion, like I just don't think that works. And I don't know if that's resonating with anyone, but that's my personal opinion. And so my parents had to let me do me, even though at the time it was like, maybe you might be making a wrong decision. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not, but only time will tell. And so, yes, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I know you did. And I just love what you said with the love them and let them figure it out. And I was wondering too, so how did you, I mean, just I'm thinking still, and I have a lot I want to ask you about from what you said, but just the thing that is really calling to me right now is your that 3 a.m. moment, right? Because that is the moment that really like changed a lot, right? When you get to the bottom of where you're at and then you're able to then kind of almost like your path has been lighted since then. I'm not putting words in your mouth, but that's just what it sounds like we're talking about. And I'm just curious, what helped you for you? How did you then kind of start to get outside of that? Was it just then you saw that speaker and that was what then you saw weighed out? Or was there something else that kind of got you to the next step?
Yeah. So my personal opinion is we are social beings. And so when I was talking to my mom at 3 a.m., she goes, you need to socialize more. Like you can't be in your room all day long. You're going to go crazy. Or you can't be studying all day long at the library. You're going to go crazy. And so at this age, I realized that my biggest problem at that time was I was not social enough. And I really believe we were wired to be social. If you want to be depressed, just don't talk to anyone for weeks and months. Just cut out your whole social life. And I understand there's some people that are introverts and extroverts, but looking back at that, what I talked about with my mom was, okay, well, when you need to go out more. And so one thing that I was like, well, I don't know. I met somebody on campus who's at a frat. Maybe if I join a frat house, that'll be good. And I tried it and I was like, this is not for me. Right. And so I was trying out all these different social events. I even believe it or not, it's hilarious now. Like it's kind of embarrassing, but there was what's called the Brock Badger at my university. And I was, I'm going to go to a basketball game and put on the Brock Badger uniform. And I did that one time. No one knows me. I'm just wearing this Brock, I'm a Badger at a basketball game. I don't know why. And I remember putting on the uniform.
It's so cool because you're getting to you're getting to almost embody something else and see that you're capable of kind of behaving a certain way. So it sort of opens up a portal to another way.
Yes. And so these experiences were fun, right? And so I did that. And then that's where I kind of landed on that network marketing opportunity where it was, I don't know, I'm just going to go. I think actually what happened was someone from the frat who I met, I just quit. He's like, hey man, I know you just left the frat. I wish I still had that text message, but there's this business opportunity that I really want to show you. You want to show me? Wow. I would love to go, and then I went and I saw this and I was just inspired. And that's what spoke to me at 19 years old. Was it the right decision? I don't know. Obviously I'm in my position now. So I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
And it would have been something else.
Yeah. I think it got you to build up these assets, right? Of being able to see that you could speak in front of people. You saw that this other guy who you respected had a stutter or something similar to you and was able to overcome it. So that gave you a vision for your future and where you wanted to body and be. And then you had the opportunity to coach and lead people, which it sounds like that's been something lateral through your life since then, which is cool.
Yeah. And so that was it.
Yeah. So
that's what, go ahead.
Yeah. It sounds like your first step then from that 3 a.m. moment was number one, asking for help. And then number two, getting out of your room. And then number three was finding different ways to socialize. And then number four was to kind of see someone that you admired, that you were able to ask for help.
Yeah. This also goes back to the parents, which is, I talked to my uncle this New Year's Eve and he goes, he's asked me questions about what he can, how he can help out his son. And I go, unfortunately, man, it's hard to mentor your own son. It's hard. And so my mom did her best, my dad did her best, but they're my parents. And it's different when it comes from a different voice. And so for me, what I needed at that time was almost like a mentor who was similar to me. That wasn't, even like an uncle or an aunt, but to me was, here is a mentor in my life who inspires me and I want to, and that will motivate me that my parents can't motivate me. And so that's what I found. That's kind of been my whole life now. It's I'm almost who's the next person who has the results I want that I can model? Even entrepreneurship or sales or leadership. It's the line that I live by, which is, who do you listen to for advice? And the line goes, you only listen to someone who has the results you want and has been similarly in your shoes. So even with stuttering, when I'm here, listen, you don't have to work with me, but my personal advice to you is this. If you're going to find someone, you better find someone who speaks the way you want to speak like. Because if they're going to give you communication advice, you're going to model the exact way they speak. Secondly, even if they sound really smart, they have to be in your shoes. They had to be in your shoes at some level. Because someone who's never stuttered doesn't really know what it feels like. It's a mother. It's like someone who has never who's never been pregnant and has had a child and giving other mothers parenting advice. So at some level, what you're teaching me, you haven't gone through. You can give me your perspective and your opinions, but it's going to be different. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Stacey.
Yeah, no, it's so good. It's really definitely speaking to me right now. And it feels really alive in this moment, what you're saying. I think it's so easy to get kind of stuck in that way of being the end all, know all for your kids, but having the idea of having a mentor or someone that they're able to look forward to. And I even think of that in my own life and different mentors I've had. It definitely came from them.
Right?
So for sure. And then I was wondering too, when you asked that guy for help, because that's a big thing, right? A lot of people have too much ego to ask someone for help. Like, how did you get yourself to do that? Was that natural for you, or did you have to muster up some courage there?
Yeah, I think that's why it's good to hit rock bottom, because me hitting rock bottom was like, I need to get out of my comfort zone and look for help. It's the classic thing of like when someone goes through a divorce, they go through a whole life change. When someone goes through a breakup, they go through a whole life change. When the doctor says you're unhealthy, X, Y, and Z, it's like they go through a whole life change. It's like when you hit this rock bottom and you're like, I need to transform. That's kind of what I hit. Of I am this loser at the time. That's why I told myself I'm this loser who's gaining too much weight, who doesn't have any friends, who talks so much crap to himself every single day. Enough's enough, buddy. Like, we need to change. And so I think I was just in such a rough space that if I look at the network marketing company, right, it was just, okay, you want me to join? What do I have to pay? Because I was in such a rough space in my life.
Yeah. Right? What would be if you had a piece of advice for someone kind of going, like if they're in that situation of where you were now, like what would you tell them to do?
Yeah, like I think this is a general rule. Like, I think number one, you have to get clear on what you want in life. So what do you want? Do you want to be a great parent? Do you want to grow great business? Do you want to become a great entrepreneur? Do you want to become a great career professional? Do you want to, I don't know, become a great sister, brother, parent, whatever? Great. Now you know what you want. Do you want to lose weight? Great. Now show what you want. The next thing to do is you should go find someone who has that. And then you need to then model it, right? So for example, I'll get slack from some personal trainers because I go, okay, great. I've always been the chubby Italian. My nonna fed me too much pasta growing up and bread and everything. And so naturally I grew up where I gained weight very easily. So if I'm going to go get a personal trainer, the personal trainer better have the body that I want, period. Right? Like period. Because if you're more overweight than me, if you don't have the body I want, then why the heck would I listen to you? And the second thing is, what I'm looking for in a trainer, have they been overweight as well? If they've been always fed, you don't understand what it feels like. And so that goes to like every aspect of life. What do you want? Who has it? And how can I model that? So for example, my parents, I love them to death, but they've never built a business. They've never built an online coaching business. They've never been an entrepreneur. They've always been salary people where they had a check every Thursday. Why would I go them for business advice? Why would I go them for career advice? Why would I go them for anything unless I want to be like them? Now, will I go to my mom or my dad? Hey, you guys raised me in a very loving home, 100%. But outside of that, depending on the situation, I'm not going to go to them for advice. So I think the problem is a lot of people go to the wrong people for advice. Hey, let me go ask my best friend who I've known for years if I should do this thing. Well, do they have the results? Then why would you ask them for advice? And it's the closest people to you because you want to respect their opinion. And so I think for everybody, A, find what you want, B, who has the results, and then C, how do I get close to them? So every aspect of my life now, it's almost like, okay, I want to do this thing. Who has it? How can I go pay them? Or how can I go get near them? So when it was the network marketing thing and the speaking thing, I went to Paul and I joined the opportunity. The second thing I did when I went into my sales role, sure, did I pay for that sales job? No, but I paid in other ways. I paid with my time. I'm going to find a good leader, a good mentor. I'm going to work under them and I'm going to make them a lot of money because I'm going to sell for them and they're going to then mentor me. And then now as a coach, right? If I want my own business, I'm going to have to pay for someone's time, pay for someone's advice. So I don't know if that answers your question, Stacey, but that's it. That's it right there.
And I have to say, I love how many times you're using do this thing. So that's been really great to hear you.
Am I? So unconscious.
So perfect. I was also curious if you don't mind sharing about the actual like stuttering side of the coaching business that you started, because I know that was something my sister kind of followed for a long time and just said how amazing it was to see your journey with that from a bystander. But I'd love to hear it from you and like how that began and what that's been.
Yeah. So it's cool because I'm creating a webinar right now I created a webinar. It's like a 40-minute presentation of how I overcame my stutter through public speaking. Do a quick plug, masteryourstutter.com. You can go and see it. It's just a free training. But now I'm creating a new webinar on basically like my journey going into the coaching space. And so what happened, so my thing was COVID happened. So it was March 2020, the year before. I was a director of a big sales team, about 60 reps across Ontario. which is in Canada. I just cleared $250,000 in income. I had the Mercedes in the driveway. I was with a partner at the time. I had a closet full of suits that I liked. I had a personal trainer. I just bought a house, and I was like, I made it on paper. I was 26, right? And when COVID hit, I just realized I'm like, I can't keep going down this journey. Like, I love it. I'm just not growing anymore. And what? Sure. Hopefully if I roll the dice properly, I might make 400,000, but I'm still working 12, 14-hour days. And I'm still at some level, to me, like I didn't have the real freedom. And so March happened, and I was deemed non-essential by the marketplace. Daniel, you aren't able to work, so you got to stay home and watch Netflix. And the character I am, like I just can't do that. I'm sure you're the same. And so honestly, the best parts of life is when you step outside of your comfort zone. And so I'm going to take a massive risk. And the previous year or two, I was writing a book. The previous year, I was writing a book on my life called The Stuttering Salesman. And I was reading that book, and I just, I'll always like go to it and just add some more sentences and chapters whenever I had the time. And I almost finished it. And I realized that every decision that I made in my life was to overcome my stutter. I'm like, this is cool. Whether it was public speaking, door-to-door, network marketing, just like music, blah, blah, blah. And so, I don't know, I've always wanted to build an online coaching business. Like, I think there was something speaking to me. If I could build a business where I could help people with their stutter, even though I'm not a speech therapist, I don't want to claim I'm a speech therapist because that aspect didn't really work for me. And I could live the same lifestyle that I have right now, and I don't have to show up to an office and report to someone and blah, blah. Yeah, let's do that. And so I think I was trained a certain way. And that's where I was very lucky, which is if you want to go find something, or if you want to go do something, find someone who has it and then model that and be willing to pay the price. Like, it's just so embedded in me. So that's what I did. I had so many buddies who were like, oh, I'm going to go figure out this coaching business by myself because I'm going to save. It's like, sure. And then I realized 6-12 months later, they're still in the same boat because there's things that you don't know. And so instantly I was like, okay, who in my network can I go to? And so I had a friend who built a coaching business, and I go, I like what you're about. What can I do? How can I learn from you? And so initially he's like, well, I think for right now I have leads that you can close. And I think that's how we can start our relationship. And that's what I was doing. So he ran a coaching business, and I sold for him, did his sales. And then over time, dude, okay, I want to start building my own coaching business now. And he like kind of was like, you're so good at what you do. Like, I don't want, to lose a good closer.
Yeah, I don't want to lose you.
But I am going to go do this. And he's like, cool, okay. And then after pushing and pushing, so what I did was, while I was working for him, I was like, dude, I'm going to try to figure this out at some level by myself, or kind of look at what he's doing and do something similar. And so I built the Facebook community, and I was kind of unsure. All I knew is that I wanted to help people who stuttered. And what I would do is, outside the sales calls, I'm going to find people in stuttering Facebook groups and say, hey, I'm a new stutter coach coming out with a program. I would like to test some of my methods on some people. And the only people that said yes were people like in India and Pakistan and Bangladesh. I don't know, the Canadians and North Americans don't want to talk to me. And I was like, whatever, I'll just work with them for free. So I would try different techniques. I had like the mirror technique where you look into the mirror while you're talking. I had certain breathing techniques. There's the way you smile and your body language and the mindset. And there's all these different things. I'm like, this is cool. And people were like, Daniel, like, you're really helping me. Thank you so much. There's one kid, he's like, I'm on antidepressants. And he's like, Dan, you've helped me so much. Like, I have the testimonial picture. You've helped me so much, Daniel. You're such a blessing in my life. I was on antidepressants, and I knew it wasn't going to help me long term, and blah, blah, blah. And so I started showing the guy who I'm working for, I'm like, look, I'm doing it behind the scenes. You did all this by yourself? I'm like, yeah, but I'm not making any money because I don't know what the heck I'm doing right now. Just kind of like seeing, how do I join? He's like, and then we figured out a plan, and that was July of 2020. And then by August of 2020, I grew a Facebook group of 400 or 500 people. I did this like live presentation, and I can get into the details of what I did in the group, but I kind of shared my story and what I did and how I overcame my stuttering. And even the coach, the guy who I worked for at the time, he helped me get clear on my offer. So what I got very clear on is I help people who stutter overcome it through public speaking, because that's what I did. My aha moment of overcoming my stutter through public speaking was the big moving. And he said, look, Daniel, if you can get someone to master the art of public speaking, technically you can basically help them overcome their stutter. That's an awesome idea. And that's basically my life. Now I have to go test this onto a group. And that's kind of what I did. And then, so I did this big presentation. I had 6 people sign up at like a beta rate, right? So it's not the full rate. So it's like, hey guys, Normally my program is going to be $2,500 US. I'm doing it at a 90% discount for $300. Who's in? And 6 people signed up. And then what I did was I taught the course live. So I had like week 1, we talked about mindset. Week 2, we talked about overcoming fear in life. Week 3, we talked about like speaking and influence. Week 4 and 5 was like public speaking. So I had to build a presentation, the pillars of a great public speaker. Number 6, how to socialize with confidence. And then the last like thing, and we're going to do a live interview in front of a group of people. And so I realized I brought all these people through it, and I'm like, dude, this is like changing the game right now. And I remember when I made my first sale on my own, when someone's giving me the credit card from across the world, I'm like, this is crazy. like this is kind of scary right now. Like, should I even be doing this right now? But yeah, and then I just kept growing it, and I built a membership area. I did, I have weekly coaching calls, and then what happened was over time, a different type of client was entering my business. So initially it was like students who were 19, 20, 21. Then it became people who were 25 and 30. And I had someone named Harpal who was 62, and Prakash is 55. And I started getting doctors in my program and engineers, and it was just the power of marketing and sharing my story. I've done all this speech therapy, but Daniel, it's like, I want to work with you because I saw your story. I know who you're about. And I love, I saw all your testimonials. It's been really cool, Stacey.
Yeah, and it's exactly what you said, right? Like if it's a speech therapist that's never had a stutter, that's hard for people to connect to. But when they're able to hear your story from like true experience and you being able to overcome it, I mean, it's a whole nother world. I wrote this down earlier, which I love. Let's see if I can find it in all my notes that I've been writing here. It's like almost here. Hold on.
It's okay.
I will edit. Yeah. What you said earlier with you have the pain and then you overcome it and then you become an inspiration, which is exactly what you did, and why people are so resonating so much with your message, because you've literally been there and were able to overcome it and almost make it as part of who you are now, to be able to like have gone through that experience.
Yeah. And like that's basically like what I've done, like even with my stutter coaching business and my business coaching business. It's for my stutter coaching business, what I've done is I've basically downloaded my life into a program. And the other aspect is like I've downloaded my business life into a coaching program. And so it's like I'm not talking from theory. And I think this is the biggest problem with education. Is a lot of people, it's like I go get a business degree and it's like it's theory. It's not coming from someone who's actually running a business. It's like, who would you rather get mentored by? Would you rather get mentored by Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, or a business professor who's been at the university or college for the last 25 years teaching? And so to me, like real education is from someone who's done it and is doing it. That's a good mentor right there. So I think that's the other line too, is like how to find a good mentor, someone who's done it and is doing it, or right. And so that's Yeah,
and something I want to point out while we're on this topic is, I mean, this is for the listeners, but sometimes you don't need to find the person that's like 5,000 steps ahead of you. You could just find the person that's been doing it like 1 month longer than you, because you can learn from them just from like at least getting started.
Yeah, well, this is also like, dealing with different entrepreneurs. Like I'm realizing too, it's the imposter syndrome. It's like, I'm not ready. And so I hope I've inspired you at some level, depending on your journey, but I'm not a speech therapist. I don't have any coaching certifications, and I think that's a business in itself, because to me, your coaching, am I educated? Of course. That's all they do is what's my next course I'm going to take? What's my next program I'm going to take? But it's realizing that A, you're never going to know it all. And B, it's like you get better when you do the thing. Plug right there. But you, right? And so when could I be ready to be a stutter coach, right? I was down the whole time. And then guess what? I had a couple of people that went through my whole program, like, Daniel, you changed my life. Daniel, I just got a promotion from work because of my speech. Daniel, I just landed at a job, or I just found myself a partner and a girlfriend, loved my life because of my speaking. I just gave a speech in front of my whole family. I gave a speech in front of all my coworkers at work. Like, thank you so much. It's like, I could have said for so long, I'm not ready to give advice on communication. But to me, this is the line I tell a lot of people, you're being selfish. I'm not ready yet. And the second part is like, you think you got to be like like what you say, you give 5,000 chapters. No, you don't. You have enough life experience for the most part. Now, if you haven't, and that's why it's like, we can get to the whole discussion of like, what is your purpose and passion? Or what's your knowledge base, but realize, like what you said, like you only got to be a few chapters ahead, and then you'll just grow as you're down that. I'm a better coach because I've coached more people. And so the more people that I coach, the better I get, the more things I can see. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. I interviewed someone, gosh, I wish I remember his dad's name, but he was telling me his dad's quote, which was, the game is the best coach, which is basically exactly what you're saying, by you living the life and you doing it. And also, one of the pieces of the do the thing formula is educate, which is both what you're speaking to, learning from someone, but then also teaching, because you learn more as you're teaching also.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people go, once I get this certification, once I get this degree, then I'm ready. Once I get this thing, then I'm ready. It's always like once New Year's happens, then I'm ready. It's always this later. Right?
Yeah, I wanted to pivot to this. I love the idea too of now you're coaching other people to basically, once they find their thing, now you're teaching them to be coaches. And if you could just speak to that side of the business while we're,
Well, technically, like, I didn't plan for this. I was very big on, I'm the stutter coach guy, I'm the speaking guy. But then what happened was, everyone, like your sister too, right? People were following me for, I think your sister's actually a perfect example. She didn't actually join my speaking program, but when she saw that, like, hey, I'm sharing the blueprint of what I built, she jumped on like instantly. It was so funny. And what I've done is to kind of go back. Initially at the beginning of 2022, I had my first person, he booked a call with me, he goes, hey, I don't want to join your stuttering program, but can you show me what you do? I'm like, nah, man, I don't really do that. Like that's a lot. And then I don't know, like, let me get back to you. And then it was like 2 weeks later, and another person, hey, oh my God, like I have this thing in like relationship coaching. I was like, I really am inspired by what you did. And then a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth. And then, sometimes you have to realize in business, like the market is going to ask you what they want. And so this is like a big pillar in just business in general, which is you give the market what it wants. And this is like, I can get into this for so long, but like, the biggest problem with like a lot of entrepreneurs, they go and build the product first before they actually go and sell it. And so they're like, all right, guys, the product's done. Who wants it? We don't want that. Whereas a good professional in business builds something, says, hey, hands up, who wants this? And then they then give it to the audience. That's what a good professional does in marketing and business in general, right? That's what I do with my stuttering program. Hey guys, I'm not going to go spend 3 months building a stutter coaching program and then go and offer it to people. And they're like, no one wants this. Like what I did was I was like, hey, I'm coming out with this stutter coaching program on how to overcome it through public speaking. We'll be covering mindset, fear, breathing techniques, socializing. Who wants it? People raise their hands and use their credit card. And so that's just like my core fundamental in business. And so after hearing the marketplace, come from the place of, because, there's a lot of like business coaches, it gets a bad rap, and, it's like people are just, I don't want to enter that because I'm going down this path, right? And I'm a big fan of like sticking to one thing and not adding more things to the plate. But I just kind of had a conversation with myself and like my team at the time of, people keep asking for this. Why don't I just do something similar where I'll take a beta group like what I did before. I'll teach them my whole blueprint from getting clear on your niche, on your offer, how to share testimonials, on how to do organic marketing. So like, how to build a profile, how to do content, how to build a Facebook group, how to do ads, how to run a webinar, how to do like high ticket selling, how to onboard clients, like, how to build a coaching program. I was like, let me just kind of bring a group through, and everyone started kicking ass. I just think, I realized that I have a passion with helping people with communication, but I also have a passion working with entrepreneurs, which is why I love the whole entrepreneurial community. Like that's my people. That's who I am deep down. I'm the risk taker. I'm the entrepreneur. I'm the go-getter. I'm the let me build something that isn't in reality right now. And so yeah, that's kind of, now I run both. And so and to me, like they intermingle with one another. It's like, hey, you just want to overcome your speech problems, no problem at all. And then I've also had some people who joined my speaking program and said, hey, very inspired. I'm a fitness coach, I'm a fitness guy, or I'm a relationship guy, or like your sister, like the Amazon. And so it's just cool. And I think that's what life is about creating and evolving. And so, yeah.
And I think it's so funny that the thing that got me to reach out to you to have you get interviewed on this podcast was your email that said, I messed up yesterday, embarrassing story. Because I think it speaks to who you are, that you're not afraid to just put yourself out there. And I think that is kind of the way to get through things, is to be able to show people the imperfection, but then moving anyway. And I really just, I think that was really cool. And I'm glad that we were able to talk today.
Yeah, I think the word is authenticity. And even though that was a very, like, I woke up the next morning and I'm like, this is so embarrassing. Just so everyone knows, here, I'll be even more vulnerable, or even but I did a live presentation in front of my Facebook community, and for the first 13 minutes I was muted, but I had my phone on an airplane mode and I was just like talking to the screen, and I had like 20 people on live, and they're like, we can't hear you, we can't hear you, we can't hear you. And then I was like, I think it was whatever, it was like 15 minutes in or whatever. I look at my phone like, oh, let's see all the comments. And I realized everyone's like, we can't hear you, we can't hear you. It was just so embarrassing. And I got up the next day, I'm like, this is painful. Like, I feel like my whole team is on there. I had people who looked up to me. I'm like, what I need to do is I need to own this and share it with the world. And I think that's what makes you, I think that's what shows character. Is like, I could have just, I don't know, like, not said anything about it, but I need to share who I am, what I'm going through, because I know that's what's going to resonate with people, and look what happened out of it.
Yeah, isn't it funny that all of your success wasn't the thing that got me to reach out to you? It was you owning that. Owning that. It's like, right? So many people have, I mean, especially, I don't want to get too crazy with social media, but we all have this perfect image that we're portraying, right? And so by seeing someone that does, I just feel like it's an attest to your character. I actually just had something. I went to Europe with my daughter and I did these really cool interviews at the Eiffel Tower and all these really cool places, street interviews with people on doing the thing. And I had this microphone and I realized when I got back that it was not on. And so I'm trying to at least get some audio from it, and I'm still going to use it. And I think I was thinking about it, and even thinking back to what you were saying, it's, to me, that's what inspires people, right? Because what stops most people from doing the thing, it's thinking you have to do it in a certain way. But by building it in public and showing people that you could be a little messy as you go, but it still is getting done and it's moving, doesn't negate the fact that it's still great.
Yeah, like, you get good the more you do something. And so I think this is the biggest thing. This is the biggest thing I had to learn in door-to-door specifically, because, I have a whole 5 to 6 years of doing door-to-door, like knocking over 300,000 doors. Like, that's a whole nother conversation. Because what I learned, like, I saw everything, the good, the bads, and the complete ugly, as you're knocking on someone's door, right? But the character, or the biggest thing that I had to learn, was the concept called failing forward. You're not going to be perfect on the first door you knock on. And even when you do get good, like, you still need to warm up, as even like when years go by, it's like, you're still nervous on the first door you knock. And what I had to relearn or unlearn of, if I failed, this means it's bad. It's like, no, if I fail, for example, the thought process was, I'm going to do this event. It's not going to be perfect. The next week, I'm going to do another one, and it's going to be better. And so, yes, it sucked the first, but I'm doing one next week. People are going to forget about this. Me doing this is the only way I'm really going to grow. And so even in door-to-door.
Yeah, you're making me think too. So I think there's a huge piece to this that I want to make sure the listeners hear is, I interviewed a writer the other day that her name's Jane Borden, a really successful writer. And she was saying she got into writing because she went to a comedy performance years before. And it was a stand-up comedy performance. And I asked her how she got into that stand-up comedy, why she ended up signing up for the class, because a lot of people will be, oh, that's cool, I want to do that, but they don't. And she was, honestly, the guy was so terrible that I was, and I'm not saying this is you, but I'm just saying this idea of this guy was so terrible that it made her believe that she could do it. And then what that shifted for me, that moment of her saying that, was, imagine if the guy that was bad knew that he inspired this amazing writer, because through comedy, that's when she learned to write, because she had to write the sketches and stuff. And so imagine if that guy knew that by him being bad at something, like, inspired this writer who now is amazingly successful. And it's like, imagine this moment of you. And again, this is just such a minor thing of everything that you do, but it is important, I think, of you sharing that story and still having the live and emailing it to your list after and talking about it on this podcast. This could be the thing that gets someone to want to do their own Facebook Live and go, well, what's the worst that could happen? Maybe I'll do what Daniel did and not have my volume on. But then that gets them to move and to do it and see that, what is the worst that's going to happen? This picture we have in our head is not nearly as bad as what is going to happen in real life.
Well, that's, again, at the root of it all, this is how I overcame my stutter. And I'm sure there's going to be some people like, oh, I don't think his stutter was even that, like, listening to him. Oh, trust me, I will get my mom and my nonna on this call if you guys need convincing. That was a joke. I'm not going to. But the thing is that how I did it was I confronted my speech, meaning that when I say something, I know I'm going to stutter, but I have to push through it. That was the only way I could, I'm getting chills just talking about it. Like the only way I could overcome my stutter was embarrassing myself in front of all these people. Like I would knock on someone's door and if you know anyone, the hardest word in someone's dictionary is their own name. So I'd be like, hi, my name is Daniel. And the person just opened the door and they're like, what's wrong with this person? Should I go get something? Should I go like call the cops? Like what's going on? Right. And I swear, Stacey, I would have such a bad stutter off the bat that I would say, you know what? It's all good. I'm actually going to walk away. They'd be like, huh? I got to go. It was so painful. And
I love that you did the door. I'm gonna be asking you to come back on because I'm gonna do a panel on people that are talking about sales. So just keep in mind that's coming up at some point.
Okay, sure, no worries. But no, it's literally to do the thing. Like that's the only way to really overcome the thing, the insecurity, the fear, the whatever the case is. And so I speak at this level because all I do now is speak, and I've built the muscle. It's what it is. It's a muscle. If I stop speaking for months and if I don't constantly improve myself, I will naturally go back to my old ways, without a doubt.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Thank you. So I am this is like my normal time that I would ask you, what is the number one thing, if you could tell the listeners on doing the thing, what is that number one thing for them?
I think that, I don't know, I've like, after coaching so many people, I've realized that sometimes you got to get yourself, depending on the scenario, like everyone's different, but you need to get yourself uncomfortable. And so that might be different for everybody, but realize that if you're not achieving the thing that you want, it means you're too comfortable. Like you got to, like I just had a buddy of mine just fly to Colombia. Like he was debating whether going back into the door-to-door realm or continuing down his coaching journey because he's just, whatever, going through his thing, right? And it just, people get, it's like your past will creep up and opportunities, whatever, right? And so he's like, you know what I'm doing? I'm moving away and I'm going back to Colombia. And now he's in Colombia. I just got off a call with him before I got onto this call or this podcast. Some people, it's investing money into a coaching program or into something. Others, it's, like moving. Others, it's like signing up for that personal trainer and actually putting your money where your mouth is. Not just saying, oh, I need to do this for New Year's Eve or for New Year's resolution. Oh, I need to do this thing. I know, but your actions don't say that, right? Like one of the scariest things that I did was I invested into a $30,000 coaching program, right? So I'm Canadian, so it was USD. So it was like $37,000. I was scared out of my mind. I was scared. Oh my goodness, you have no idea. I can go buy a car right now, but I'm giving it to this individual. But there was beliefs in my head that I had to break. Why would someone spend that much money? Why is that really worth it? And then guess what? I sold, like that's how much my top tier coaching program is now. And I've sold many of those. And so you have to do the thing that scares the hell out of you. That's the only way where growth lies. And so to me, there's a ticking time clock on everybody. So whatever journey that you're in, there's a ticking time clock. We're all going to technically, at least in this body, we're going to die. And so I understand things are in your life and blah, 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 and da, 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 da. To me, it's what can I do to get myself uncomfortable? Because my personal opinion, when my back's against the wall, that's when you're the most creative, right? It's like that classic line. It's so bad, but there's a lot of merit to it, which is like if someone put a gun to your head, right? Let's say you've been in business for years, right? And you're struggling in business and blah, blah, blah. You're going to find this funny, Stacey. And you've been in business for years. If someone put a gun to your head and said, we're going to kill your family unless you go and make $1 million this year. Question for you, Stacey. Do you think you'd figure it out?
Oh, yeah.
And so even to the audience, do you think you'd figure it out? The answer is probably. And so the idea is depending on your journey. The same thing with losing weight. I'm struggling with losing weight. Trust me, if someone put a gun to your head and said, you better lose weight or I'm killing your whole entire family, you would do it. And so my point is, to me, growth lies in the uncomfortable. So what are you doing to get yourself uncomfortable? Right.
So good.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, you mentioned masterstutter.com. Is there anywhere else that they can go to find you and get into your...
Yeah, I would say come follow me on Facebook, Daniel Francis. You can go check out my website, officialdanielfrancis.com. And a lot of my trainings I do is in my Facebook group. It's called Master Your Coaching. Facebook community. But if you go to my profile, Daniel Francis, I also have a podcast too. It's called the Underdog Podcast with Daniel Francis. You can come check it out. And that's a lot of plugs, but yes, whatever the case is, hopefully I've made an impact. Whether you follow me or not doesn't matter. But I hope I inspired you at some level. It's a pleasure, and I can't wait to do this again one day.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for listening to the Do the Thing podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, but even more, we hope you'll be inspired to do the thing. Do you have a burning question on doing the thing that you'd like answered? How about an inspiring do the thing story of your own that you'd like to share? We'd love to hear all about it. Just leave us a voice message at dothething.callcast.co or email us at hello@dothethingpodcast.com.